Welcome to Rising Above Hate. My name is Emily May. I'm the president and co-founder of Right to Be, an NGO working to build a world free of hate and harassment and filled with humanity. This conversation comes at an important moment. The US has been shaken by multiple devastating reminders of where unchecked hate can lead. We have both seen conservative commentator Charlie Kirk assassinated at a public event, and we've also seen in Michigan a church become the target of a horrific attack where a man drove into the building, opened fire, set it ablaze, and left multiple people dead and injured. These acts of violence, as we know, are absolutely not isolated. They are reflecting a dangerous trend, political, religious, and ideological hatred that turns into real harm. To help us unpack what is happening in the world today, why it matters, and what can be done, I am so excited that we are joined today by Dr. Nicola Smith-Kea, Dr. Nikki, PhD. She is the Senior Project Manager for the Anne Arundel County Hate Crimes Prevention Program, where she leads groundbreaking work to stop hate before it turns violent. Dr. Nikki brings deep expertise in the intersection of research, community, and public safety, and she is here to help us understand how communities can push back against hate in this moment. Dr. Nikki, welcome.
Thank you, Emily. Happy to be here.
I wanted to start off today on a personal note. You and I both address hate and harassment and discrimination for a living. I know very well that is not easy work, and I wanted to hear from you what drew you into this field.
Thank you, Emily. That's a good question. Definitely not easy work. Definitely wasn't a linear path. I will give a short response. I'm my mother's child. And for those who are listening on who knows my mother, they know exactly what I mean. So I'm the daughter of Reverend Joan Anita Smith and Roy Smith, and it's in my DNA. I grew up with a mother who helped everyone, no matter what they had or how they looked or how they behaved. She really exemplified empathy and saw good in everyone. And I'm a little of everyone who came before me and a lot of my mother. I fix things. I help, I connect people, I find solutions. And in terms of the work that I've done in the past, I worked with upwards of 100 police departments around the country, helping them to implement or enhance police mental health collaboration programs. So for years, I worked at this intersection of mental health, substance use disorder, homelessness, and policing. And I helped these jurisdictions to better respond to people in crisis without causing further harm. And prior to coming here in Anne Arundel County in Maryland, I worked in the fourth largest police department on the executive team implementing a bunch of reform efforts. So my why moving into this work is another space and opportunity I get to help people. That is something I'm passionate about. I live in southern Anne Arundel County on the Shadyside Peninsula in Columbia Beach, and working here in the county executive's office in Anne Arundel County has been a very intentional decision for me. I have a beautiful black son. He's tall, he's sweet, but he's a black boy living in a country that will judge him simply because of how he looks. And that's a reality we have to live with every day. And I know that challenges he will face just because of how he looks. So I want to make sure our county lives up to its tagline of being the best place for all.
Me too. Me too. So on that note, your work takes place in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Tell us a little bit about Anne Arundel County and how do you see hate, harassment, disrespect showing up in Anne Arundel County?
So Anne Arundel County is a pretty diverse community between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. It's a home of about 600,000 residents, the state of the capital, Annapolis, and the U.S. Naval Academy, most centrally located county in the state. And we're on the beautiful Chesapeake Bay. It's a unique county. There's a mix of urban, suburban, and rural areas, as well as its diversity racially, culturally, and economically. And that diversity is a real strength. But it also means that we have to be very intentional about creating equity and ensuring all communities feel safe and included. It's a county of tremendous assets and opportunities. And our work on hate crime prevention is really about protecting that sense of belonging and making sure every resident can thrive here. So hate is showing up in different ways in Anne Arundel County. We're seeing in terms of bias incidents, and I'll talk about the numbers for 2025. So far to date, we have 119 bias incidents in the county. Assault, simple assault is the most common type of hate bias incidents at 22.7% or 27 incidents. Theft and intimidation is showing up at 16% or 19 incidents, and destruction of property at 11.8% or 14 incidents. In terms of hate bias types, and what that means is we're referring to hate bias based on protected classes. And just to add a little information, in Maryland, we have 9 hate bias protected classes: race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, gender identity, and homelessness is unique and specific to Maryland and doesn't fall under the federal list of protected classes. So in terms of hate bias types, we are seeing 65.8% of the hate bias incidents are motivated by race and or ethnicity. That's 98 of our 119 incidents to date. 12% of hate bias incidents are motivated by sexual orientation, 11.4% by national origin. So we're hearing neighbors saying their neighbor is telling them they need to go back to where they come from. People are using derogatory terms. And 7.3% of the hate bias types are motivated by religion. And in terms of location, majority of those are showing up in residence and homes. So again, people are destroying property on the lawns of individuals simply because of the group that they're associated with, or that the offender's assumption of the group the person is associated with. We're also seeing 10.9% of these incidents happening on highways, roads, alleys, and streets, 8.4 in schools, and 7.6 at department or discount stores.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is a trend that we're seeing all across the country right now. But let's stay in Anne Arundel County for a minute, because I think, it's important that we are addressing this hate, not just in a big way, right? But also in a hyper local way, which is where your work has really focused. What interventions do you think are needed most urgently right now? And what is needed long term in Anne Arundel County?
That's a great question. And a lot of the work that we're doing now, and I should have mentioned, Anne Arundel County got a hate crimes prevention program grant in 2023, and we started this work in August of 2024. In terms of short-term interventions or interventions that are most urgent, I would say the first would be just simply increasing awareness. I know that many of us, we don't wake up thinking about the difference between hate crime and hate bias incidents, for instance. So how do we make sure people know the difference between these two things, what each represents? Also, we have to make sure that we're raising awareness so that no one feels invisible when harm occurs. So we've created a website, and I'd encourage folks to go on to our No Hate Here website for Anne Arundel County. We're creating resources like trifolds and awareness flyers. We also have to make sure people know how to report hate crimes and hate bias incidents, and that's really important. So we're creating and at this moment piloting a reporting portal, and we've created a brief reporting guide. We also have to target public awareness. We have targeted public awareness campaigns in multiple languages. So if you look on our website, if you check what we're doing in Anne Arundel County, you'll see mention of our Uncover Hate campaign in both English, Spanish, and Korean. And we're getting ready to roll that out again. And of course, we help to build trust with marginalized communities through really consistent and respectful engagement. So that's the first way, increasing awareness. That's most urgent. The other thing we have to consider is to ensure that victims get support they need. And again, that's why we are creating a victim support toolkit. We have a multidisciplinary advisory team, and they're working really hard at creating this toolkit, hopefully to launch before the end of the year. And we're also looking for ways that we can engage with targeted communities that to offer support and condemn the act and prevent further escalation. In the short term, we also have to build comprehensive approaches that expand and enhance strategies to increase reporting. And I mentioned earlier, the highest priority is to really ensure victims and witnesses feel safe and empowered to report hate crime. And so we're creating a reporting portal. We've learned a lot of lessons from other jurisdictions. We had meetings with Montgomery County jurisdictions in Florida, in California, and of course the Maryland Office of the Attorney General. And we're working with Arundel Stat to create this portal. We're in the process of piloting at the moment, and we're hoping to roll that out before the end of the year. Another short term is really to enhance technology. And with the help of the grant, we were able to purchase infrared movable cameras to be placed in locations with recurring incidents. Both Anne Arundel County PD and Annapolis PD have benefited from this. And these will, as mentioned, in some situations where there's hate crime and hate bias, there's no evidence of this. And so the law enforcement agencies will have the opportunity to place these cameras for a limited period of time. You also asked about long-term intervention. And for long-term, the work is really about changing culture, right? That means investing in education, especially with our young people. Addressing the root causes of hate requires starting with the youngest members of our community. So anti-bias training should be a consistent, grade-appropriate part of the curriculum. And the Anne Arundel County school system is doing a fabulous job of this. We have to build bridges across communities. We have to strengthen partnerships with schools and faith-based organizations, businesses and nonprofits. And it's really about making inclusion and belonging part of the fabric of the county so that hate has no place to grow. Another thing we have to focus on in the long term is really strengthening community police relationships. There's no denying that there is a fraught relationship between police and some communities, some of which are targeted by hate and bias. And this is work I've been doing for some time now, teaching courses on this fraught relationship. We have to find ways to repair and build those bridges in a consistent way, not just through an activity here or there, coffee with a cop, donut with a cop, not knocking them, but we have to have deeper and sometimes difficult conversations. So we have to encourage this co-production of public safety. We need to know as a community, as a country, that police can't do this alone, and those who are affected need to be a part of the solution. And the last thing I'll say is we have to continue to invest in equity across all county services. Systematic inequities in housing, in education, and the justice system create this condition for hate to flourish. And the county is doing great work in this space and must continue its work to proactively address disparities. The Office of Equity and Human Rights in the County Executive's Office is doing an amazing job providing leadership in the development of policies, programs, and procedures that ensure compliance with anti-discrimination laws and integrate diversity, access, and inclusion into all county operations. And I'll mention one other thing. We have to foster community dialogue and cross-cultural exchange. This is critical for change to happen. Long-term change depends on community-wide conversations, having these types of conversations. How do we support interfaith and intercultural dialogues, for instance? How do we create opportunities for residents from different backgrounds, someone who doesn't look like me or you, to connect and build relationships? And there's a lot to be done, and everyone needs to be a part of that solution.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's absolutely beautiful. I think, it's very hard to hate somebody once you know their story. Um,
Correct.
and taking the time, right, to complement the incredible work that you are doing to make sure that the systems are there to support victims, that the infrastructure is there for reporting, that are meaningfully addressing this in schools, and then complementing that with something all of us can do every single day, which is just have a real conversation with our neighbor, is a beautiful set of interventions. I think oftentimes people think there's nothing you can do about hate except for not being hateful. And I think your work in Anne Arundel County shows that there's a lot that you can do, both on a systemic level and on an interpersonal level.
Thank you, Emily.
One of the more interesting trends that we are watching in the anti-violence field is that we're seeing that violent crime and homicides are at a 4-year low in the United States, but hate crimes are at a 20-year high across the country. Are you seeing this happen in Anne Arundel County? Are you seeing this play out? And what do you attribute this discrepancy to?
Yeah. So we are seeing a similar trend in Anne Arundel County. I think we can credit the reduction of violent crime here and in other jurisdictions to just more proactive policing and advanced technology. So the Anne Arundel County, for instance, Police Department launched in February 2025 their real-time information center, and they're able to better and respond more quickly to certain crimes. Violent crimes, particularly like street-level offenses like carjacking and robberies, are often addressed more effectively with advanced policing technology and strategies. So I would credit what we're seeing in terms of just more proactive policing and more advanced technology. Hate bias incidents and crimes are different, however, right? They're often motivated by ideological bias rather than immediate criminal opportunity. And this makes them a little more resistant, or a lot more resistant, to these types of tactical interventions. So again, as I mentioned before, we are seeing similar trends. We're seeing increased numbers compared to this time last year. We're also hearing more anecdotal evidence that hate bias incidents have been increasing. But we're also hearing that people are scared. People are scared to report, and there is increased lack of trust in police due to the current political climate. So we're trying to have conversations with communities. We're working at providing other opportunities to report. And as I mentioned earlier, we're in the process of creating the reporting portal. What we're hoping for as communities gain more trust in the system and feel safer coming forward, we will see more incidents being documented. Our ultimate goal, of course, is to reduce and eliminate hate. But in the meantime, we need to know what's happening. We can't fix it unless we know what's going on. And so we're really encouraging people to report. What we need to be aware of is that declining violent crime doesn't mean we can take our foot off the gas. Hate crimes will erode the sense of safety and belonging in Anne Arundel County and every other jurisdiction across this country. That's why education, prevention, and community partnerships are so critical, not just to respond when hate happens, but to make sure hate has no safe harbor.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a little bit more of a big picture question, and a question that I think is the question of the hour, that but perhaps it's very challenging to answer, which is, we are at a moment where our communities are all being attacked at the same time. It does not matter where you come from or what identities you hold. It feels like all of us are under some level of attack. And I think in those moments, the highest possible outcome that we can hope for is our collective liberation, our collective freedom. And the lowest possible outcome is these increased divisions. What is it going to take to bring us together across identities, approaches, issue areas to meaningfully combat hate in all of its forms?
That's a tough question, right? And you're absolutely right. When hate rises, all our communities feel the impact.
Mhm.
The real question is whether we allow that pressure to divide us or whether we use it as a reason to come together. And we're working to ensure that we use it as a reason to come together. What is going on? What is it that's going to take us to build trust across identities and issue areas, even when our experiences are different? It means listening deeply to one another. It means showing up for each other's struggles and recognizing that none of us are free until all of us are free. You hear my accent. That's not a mistake. That's not, I'm a Black female immigrant.
Mhm.
I know I'm in a space where I'm walking with my passport card, right? I know I'm in a space where I'm hearing more questions of where are you from? And I respond by where am I from in the United States or my accent, right? And
Mhm.
so we have to have these deeper conversations to get to know and understand each other. We have to build coalitions, faith groups, schools, law enforcement, nonprofit businesses working together with shared values and dignity, of dignity and belonging. I might have mentioned, if I didn't, we formed a multidisciplinary advisory team that is helping to guide the work in Anne Arundel County, and 21 organizations are represented for this reason. We have to have these conversations in person. We have quarterly meetings. Um, in the beginning, we started with hybrid meetings. We've moved to in-person meetings, which I know a lot of people aren't happy with. But to have this conversation, I need to see your face. You need to see my face. These aren't easy conversations. And as you mentioned earlier, it's harder to hate someone if you're looking at them and directly and speaking to them. It also means committing to sustained dialogue and action, not just responding when there is crisis. So for me, I think collective liberation isn't just an aspiration, it's a strategy. When we choose solidarity over division, we become stronger than the hate that seeks to pull us apart. And to combat the hate collectively, we must build a sense of shared fate across all communities. This requires centering marginalized voices, ensuring that those most impacted by hate lead the conversations and shape the solutions. This moves us from top-down approach to one that truly reflects lived experience. We also have to emphasize shared humanity, and that means focusing on commonalities and mutual well-being rather than focusing solely on differences, which can be divisive. Another thing that I think we have to do in terms of collective liberation is acknowledging intersectionality. I
Mhm.
just mentioned I'm a Black female immigrant.
Mhm.
Each of those unique characteristics brings with it a whole host of things. So recognizing that different forms of oppression are interlinked.
Mhm.
Acknowledging this prevents us from addressing one form of hate while ignoring or inadvertently harming another group. One other thing I will say is we need to build broad coalitions, and I mentioned that earlier. So encourage collaboration across diverse sectors. You and I both went to Eradicate Hate conference, and we saw that message resonating throughout the entire event. We have to get people together. We have to get communities having conversation, deep, difficult conversations. We need to train people on having conversations, right? And the last thing I'd say in response to this question is really committing to dialogue and action. Engage in open and honest dialogue about difficult issues while channeling conversations into concrete, measurable action. So it's not just about talking, but what are we putting in place? What are we creating? What are we doing to help communities to really move the needle on this?
Mhm. I think you're absolutely right. I am always struck in this work of addressing hate and hate-fueled violence that there's nobody that I've met anyway. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere, but there's nobody that I have met who's ever raised their hand and been like, you know what, I am pro murder to solve my problems, right? I am a proud racist. Do you know what I am? I'm a harasser, right? Nobody says these things. We all, I think, are on common ground here that
Mhm.
that is not the way we want this country to be run. That is not the way that we want our own lives to be or to seem to feel. And I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to us being able to see each other more
Mhm.
deeply because the devil's really in the details. None of us want this hate in our country, in our communities, in our schools, in our workplaces. But we've got to do more collectively to get
Yeah.
there. We've got to do it for each other, no matter what your, identities are, no matter what your background is. We need to see the entirety of people in a deeper way if we're going
Mhm.
to break through.
I agree. And as you said, at the end of the day, our work is really about belonging.
Yeah,
Preventing hate crimes means making sure every person knows they have a place here and that their safety and dignity are protected.
exactly. Exactly. And you look at people who do commit some of these more extreme forms of violence, and one of the top indicators is isolation, right?
Hmm.
Everyone deserves to feel like they are part of a community. Everyone deserves to belong, right?
Yeah,
And really need to figure that out and how to create that as communities and as a country.
I agree. I'll say one thing, Emily. What gives me hope is that every time communities come together to stand against hate, we see what's possible.
No,
We
I
see
know.
change, right? A county, whether it's as diverse as Anne Arundel County, we have to celebrate, and every generation needs to grow up in a safer and stronger place than the last. I'm doing this for my son. He's
Mm,
15 years old. I don't want him to experience this when he gets older. I don't want his children to experience this. And I think if we all look at it that way, I think we can see palpable change, tangible change. That's a future we're trying to build here in Anne Arundel County.
I agree with you. And we started this conversation talking about how this work is hard. It absolutely is. And we're closing out talking about the most beautiful part of you and I's jobs is getting to see folks come together across difference, be in community with one another, demonstrate care for one another. And that is it. That is why we
That's
do the work, right? Because
yeah,
we see in those moments that it's possible. It just, it's gonna take a couple more sit downs for us to get there together.
I agree. I agree.
Um,
This has been a wonderful conversation.
It has. I have one final question for you because I think there is a lot of people across this country and across the state of Maryland and Anne Arundel County who are really scared, right? They might be scared of being deported. They might be scared of being prosecuted for their political opinions. They might be scared of having the gay marriage delegitimized or accessing gender affirming health care. They might be scared of simply what their neighbors might do on their way to the grocery store. For those of us who are feeling scared right now, what advice do you have for us?
We have to stand united. We have to have conversation. Hate divides, but belonging unites. How can we help people to feel like they belong to something, to belong to a part of something? That's at the heart of this. When we choose unity, everyone will be safer and stronger. I know it's people are fearful at the moment. I know people are scared. We need to find allies. We need to find people who we feel safe with, who we can have safe conversations with, and we need to get the support that we need. Don't be shy, even in terms of in this really politically charged, I will say, time. Um, and leadership that's leading with fear, we need to stand together. And I'll leave at that. We need to stand together.
And we will. Beautifully, beautifully said, Dr. Nikki. Such an honor to be here with you today. Such an honor to be working with you. I'm grateful for your leadership in Maryland and this country. The world needs more Dr. Nikki's, and we are just happy to
Be
have had.
careful what you ask for.
I am very careful. I say that very intentionally. The world needs more of you, my friend. And I'm excited that we got to share a little bit of your light today.
Thank you. And more Emily's. Thank you all.